Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to turn that pile of notes you have into, well, knowledge you can use right away. We know you want insights fast, especially the kind that act like an insurance policy, the expensive kind that saves you thousands later on. Today's deep dive, it's pretty relevant for anyone who owns a home, really, or manages property. We're diving into those hidden costs of convenience, the quick fix from a contractor that actually sets you up for a big, expensive failure down the line. We're going to really analyze one specific plumbing failure piece by piece. The goal is to pull out a universal principle, basically, how to be vigilant with any trade, not just plumbing. Think electrical, foundations, anything.
Exactly. That's the mission. We're digging into source notes called Flexible Pipe Failure Contractors Corner Cutting. It's part of a bigger document. Notes on Home Improvement, Part 101. Yeah. It details replacing a burst pipe for a small sink in the front yard. By focusing on this one seemingly small problem, we can really unpack how these failures become predictable.
Okay, so the source writer, Eng, mentions they were right in the middle of home projects, right? Dealing with monsoon season issues, and apparently still sorting out fallout from another bigger problem they'd just fixed. That context feels important. Like you learn the hard lessons when you're really paying attention because things are already, painful.
That focus, yeah, it led straight to the big takeaway in the notes,
Mm-hmm.
which is the need for, well, relentless scrutiny. The writer basically concluded you have to watch contractors closely, not because they're out to get you, necessarily, but because they're under huge commercial pressure. They're often looking for ways to bump up their profit margin and, maybe more importantly, speed up the job. And speed and profit.
Yeah.
They often work directly against long-term quality in construction.
That makes total sense. I mean, save an hour on 10 jobs a week. That's like a whole extra day's pay, almost. But what does that actually look like? Turning speed into specific material choices. That's where it gets really useful for the listener, I think. We need to get past profit over quality as a general idea and look at the technical details of what went wrong here.
Precisely. Let's jump right into that. Section 2. The mechanism of corner cutting. In this specific case, it was material substitution. Plain and simple. We're talking about the pipe that connects the sink basin itself to the main drainage line. This pipe carries wastewater, obviously, deals with different temperatures, and it's under gravitational strain, too. The source notes are really clear on this. The proper material, the recommended one for a rigid connection like this, it's hard PVC pipe. Installing hard PVC, that's basically doing it by the book. It's tough. It's got that solid wall structure. It gives you real structural integrity against load, temperature swings, all that.
Okay, hard PVC. So based on Ang's notes, why is that the thing a contractor might want to swap out? Why avoid using the right stuff?
Because, honestly, hard PVC takes time, a lot more time. Think about the actual work involved. You need precise measurements, like down to the millimeter sometimes. There's almost no wiggle room in the length or the angle. Then you have to cut the pipe just right, maybe deburr the edges. Then you're using specific PVC cement, sometimes primer too. And then, depending on the joint and the conditions, you might have to wait for it to cure properly before you can even test it or, fill the trench back in.
Wow, yeah. That sounds like a real headache compared to an easier option. Measuring, cutting, scraping, gluing, waiting. I can see how that could easily add 30 minutes, maybe an hour, just for one joint.
Exactly. And that's the incentive right there.
Yeah.
So instead of the proper hard PVC, the contractor in this story, they grabbed a flexible pipe. Flexible pipe needs almost zero precise measuring. You just cut it roughly to length. It's way easier to handle. You can snake it around obstacles, and often you connect it with simple clamps, not that careful chemical welding process. It's like the instant gratification choice for the installer.
Okay, I get the temptation now, especially if it's an awkward spot to reach or something. It's like using, I don't know, a piece of string versus a laser level. Huge difference in effort. But flexible pipe isn't always bad, is it? Like, it has its uses. So why was this specific swap, flexible for rigid, so disastrous for the sink drain?
Because the job itself demanded rigidity. It needed defined load distribution. Flexible material, well, its whole point is that it can move, flex, absorb occasional shocks. That's what it's designed for. But when you force it into a roll that needs to be rigid, like a load-bearing connection, you're basically introducing a whole new way for it to fail. Especially, and this is key, when that bad material choice gets combined with a really bad installation mistake. And that brings us right to Section 3. This is really the core lesson, continuous stress. The source notes specifically point out that the flexible pipe wasn't just, laid in place. The contractor actually had to stretch it to make it reach the fixed drainage hole in the wall.
Stretching. A flexible pipe. Huh. That sounds immediately wrong. Help me picture this. If it's flexible, wouldn't it just kind of relax into that new stretched length eventually?
No, absolutely not. This is where you have to think about the mechanics of it. Imagine uh, like a really strong rubber band. You hook one end to something solid. Then you pull the other end really tight and hook it to another solid point some distance away. That rubber band, it's now under constant tension. It's basically acting like a bowstring. It's always pulling. That's exactly what happened with this pipe. It was stretched, then locked into place at the sink connection on one end and the drain port on the other. So the whole setup was under continuous tension. The pipe wasn't just sitting there connecting A to B. It was actively trying to snap back, to recoil to its natural, shorter, unstretched length.
Ah, okay. So it was constantly fighting against the joints, every single second, 24/7. It wasn't just passive, waiting for water to flow through it. It was actively pulling itself apart.
That's the perfect description. It's engineered failure, essentially. What they introduced was continuous stress. This wasn't like a one-off shock, like, water hammer or a sudden blast of hot water. No, this was a constant, unrelenting load focused right on the weakest parts, the connection points, the seals themselves.
That feels like a critical difference. Hitting a pipe with a hammer is intermittent stress, sure. But this is like compressing a spring and locking it down forever trying to expand.
Exactly right. And when you do that, material failure isn't just possible, it's pretty much guaranteed. When stress is continuous, the material never gets a chance to relax or recover. It's constantly pulling at the seal, maybe widening tiny imperfections, exploiting any little weakness in the material right near the joint. That constant pulling just dramatically speeds up normal wear and tear, something that might, under normal use, last 10, 15 years. It fails in months, maybe a year, when it's under that kind of unyielding tension.
And the result, yeah, the notes say it was inevitable. That continuous stress led directly to the pipe basically tearing off, a catastrophic failure. So it wasn't bad luck or a faulty pipe from the factory. It was a direct consequence, predictable from the moment the contractor decided stretching that flexible pipe was faster than doing the job right with PVC.
So if we boil this down for you, the listener, the real takeaway is this. That pipe failure wasn't an accident. It was, you could say, designed into the system the second the contractor chose speed over the right materials and technique. They went for the easy install, flexible pipe, then made it worse by stretching it, creating that constant destructive pulling force.
Right. So this knowledge becomes your defense mechanism, your armor. When you're talking to any contractor about plumbing, especially drains, fixed connections, you need to really grill them on material choices. If they suggest a flexible option instead of a rigid one, particularly for something that needs to be structurally stable like the sink drain, you need to ask them point blank, will this flexible pipe be installed under tension? Does it need to be stretched to make the connection?
Understanding that rigidity prevents that continuous stress, the silent killer in plumbing systems. That's your new superpower in maintenance. If the answer is yes, that pipe has to be stretched to fit. Then right there, you're looking at a built-in failure down the road. And that's when you push back. You insist on the proper, maybe more time-consuming material, like the hard PVC, which, leads to one last thing for you to think about, kind of building on that whole profit and speed motivation mentioned in the notes. If using the proper hard PVC takes way more time and costs more upfront, and using the wrong stretched flexible pipe guarantees a failure later, meaning another expensive repair call out. Who really benefits most in the long run from that initial decision to cut corners?
Definitely something to chew on next time you're looking at a quote. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.